Hello, everyone. Finally, after more than 2 years since the release of the first part, the world has seen the movie Dune Part 2 from director Denis Villeneuve. In addition to the plans for 3 sequels, Warner Brothers is already discussing the possibility of expanding this world, although in a very vague way. But you know what is even more interesting? After watching the second part, I personally had the main thought in my head. How cool! What was the second Dune like? Why did the critics love it so much? Did this movie manage to take into account the disadvantages of the first part? And does Dune become the main-to-date science fiction saga of modern times? What do you think? Put a like if you have already seen this movie, and of course, write your opinion about it. The second part of the movie review will be out soon. Give it a like, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss it. And now, let's go. So, first we're going to talk spoiler-free until a separate warning, so you can safely watch the whole thing. So here's Dune, Part 2. After more than 2 years of waiting, it's time for the audience to return to Arrakis again. And here we should remember that despite all the praise, the first movie was not a mega hit as Warner Brothers had hoped. The second part seems to be doing a better job than its predecessor, so director and screenwriter Denis Villeneuve has clearly learned from the criticism of the first movie. On this movie is now made huge bets, and not only because the budget of the novelty was a solid $190 million, which is $25 million more than its predecessor, but also because the release of the final third chapter and in general the entire franchise is now completely dependent on the performance of the second Dune. In general, Dune, despite the fact that it is a part of a large saga itself, looks like a full-scale epic, because for almost 3 hours of viewing, you will encounter such a number of characters, and important and key, that you can't count on the fingers of 2 hands. By the way, there are 7 nominees and 2 Oscar winners in the cast of Dune. Part 2. So getting ahead with the acting in this movie, as well as in the first part, everything is at the highest level. And if someone wants to criticize a little, it is strangely enough Timothée Chalamet for his performance of the main role. Not to say that the hero looked somehow sluggish, not interesting or not natural, but expressing my subjective opinion, Timothée did not fully reveal his character. After all, if in the first part this actor almost perfectly coped with his role of a subtle boy who gradually evolves, now he just lacked the inner charisma to fully convincingly embody what his character eventually turns into. One of the main antagonists of the movie, Vladimir Harkonnen's nephew Feyd-Rautha, looked more convincing to me. This character really fit his role perfectly. The role of an unrestrained sociopath with a bald head, shaved eyebrows, and some tear on his teeth. Unfortunately, his arch didn't turn out to be too extensive, but what we saw was impressive. If on the general plot, then again without any spoilers. As you remember, the first part ended with Paul and his mother finding refuge at Freeman's, the main character falling in love with Chani, played by Zendaya, and of course, seeking revenge on the Harkonnens. Now, in the new movie, he gets to know more and more the spirit and customs of the desert, which includes, for example, traveling on giant sandworms, but at the same time, the sex change does not please everyone. Chani, for example, is not happy about them. Nevertheless, besides the confrontation with the Harkonnens, and it seems with the whole Empire, the main task for Paul is to understand now who he is and whether he is the chosen one that the Freemen have been waiting for so long. In general, if not to go into separate twists and turns, the search for answers to these and many other questions turns Dune, Part 2 into a gigantic, visually stunning, harsh, and a bit dark, but still beautiful epic. Even, for example, in terms of visuals, it's unlike most we've seen. Yes, of course, Denis Villeneuve uses a lot of computer graphics, but everything in the end is perceived perfectly tactile, without the sensation of chroma key and other goodness that Marvel is now full of. Here it's completely different. Maybe that's why critics were in raptures about the second part. Overall, I think this is the kind of approach, with its adjustments, that could be ideal for a future Warhammer series from Henry Cavill and Amazon. Nevertheless, the rating of the movie is rapidly gaining momentum. The critics have spoken their minds. Now it's interesting to hear what you, the viewers, think. What do you think? Write your answer in the comments. Let's discuss it together. The second part of the movie review will be out soon. Give it a like and, of course, subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. See you soon.